Hi, everybody. Again, this is Cheryl Abram, my channel Ypifany. So please like and subscribe if you want to hear and participate in discussions about learning and evaluation. So before I get too far in my videos on this channel, I need to go over with you some of my definitions of things. So we talk about stuff, we say learning, we say evaluation, just assuming that the other person knows what we're talking about and that they have the same definition that we do. So I can almost guarantee that when I say learning and evaluation, I am not thinking the same thing that you are. So it's going to be important for me to just get some basic definitions out of the way so that moving forward, when you hear me talk about these things, you know what I'm talking about, right? And you know how I define those terms. Because if you're not on board with the terms, then you won't understand anything I'm saying from here on out. Very short video. I'm just going to go over some simple definitions with you. And I say simple. I have been working for months to pare these things down because they started off very wordy, right? I love words, I love explaining stuff, but Richard Feynman, was an amazing physicist, said all the time, if you can't explain something simply, that means you don't understand it, okay? So I'm going to start with, now I wrote some notes just so I don't go off on a whole bunch of different tangents and stuff like that. I'm going to give you 4 primary definitions related to learning. Now, I cannot talk about evaluation without talking about learning, okay? Because those things, they absolutely go together, okay? They're seamless processes that go together. So the first definition I want to talk about is work. Very simply, work is physical and mental effort that produces something, right? That's a very simple definition of work. And it's actually, if you go to, that's everybody's definition of work. It's in Webster or whatever. If you Google it or look it up in a dictionary, you'll see a definition similar to that. So work is physical and mental effort that produces something. And I'm also going to put these definitions in the word feature below the video. Okay, now here we go. The learning environment, this is important. The learning environment is the natural and artificial environment where work is done. Okay? The learning environment is the natural and artificial environment where work is done. Now, I say natural and artificial because if we think of an organization, okay, we have people in organizations, we have relationships and connections and things like that we're making, but we also have, which is what I consider like the natural part, right? You're just with people, you're all working, you're all doing things. The artificial part is where the organizational controls come in play, right? So this is your policies and procedures and things that people have created, to keep you on a certain path, to have you go in a certain direction, to help ensure that you meet a very specific result, okay? So the learning environment is that environment, all right? And you'll see why it's the learning environment in a second. Now, the way I define learning, this is very important. It's very simple, very important. Learning is sharing perspectives and experience, period, okay? That's what learning is. Learning is sharing perspectives and experience. Learning is very similar to empathy. Okay? When you show empathy for someone, that's basically what you're doing. You're sharing in their perspective and their experience. You're not seeing for them. You're not carrying a load for them, right? You're sharing in that. And that's exactly what learning is as well. Now, I make a distinction between learning, education, development, and training, all right? Where learning is simply the sharing of perspective and experience. Education, development, and training is that, but for a particular purpose, okay? So I'm sharing in this perspective and experience so that I can, all right? Learning has no goal, right? Because learning is just sharing, okay? But the goal comes in when you're training, developing, and educating. All right? That's very, very important. Okay? The last definition is teaching. So teaching or instructing anyone whose function it is to teach, right? Teaching is the sharing of perspective and experience. It's the same as learning. It's absolutely the same as learning. Now, I take this perspective because I'm looking from a different theory, right? Typically, we think of learning and teaching is, okay, the teacher knows something that I don't know. I'm the learner. I don't know this. I need to go to the teacher to learn this thing and fill this blank hole in my brain where I have no information. Okay, that's not the way I look at it. I start with what's called the theory of theory, right? And that means that we don't come here with a blank slate. Okay, we come here already with theories that we for the duration of our lives we're just testing, right? So my mind is not empty, when I'm born or when I go into a classroom. I don't have empty spots in my mind where the instructor is now going to fill in. Okay, so teaching is sharing of perspective and experience, and it's the same as learning. Learning is the sharing of perspective and experience, all right? And I love and I use it a lot of times in my presentations. It's attributed to Einstein, but the Einstein quote, "The only thing that gets in the way of my learning is my education." And I think that really helps to show what I'm talking about, right? Learning is the whole shebang, okay? It happens all the time, consciously and unconsciously, right? But it's when we consciously direct it that it becomes training, education, and development. All right. So learners, when we create courses, and I'm actually creating something right now for cyber professionals, because cybersecurity just became a really interesting topic to me as I was doing some of this other work. So I'm creating a leadership program for cyber professionals. But when it comes to learners, right? Learners are not consumers, right? They're not customers. We treat them as customers. Are you satisfied? Are you going to come back? Are you going to recommend us to somebody else? So when I do my evaluations, I'm not looking at learners as customers, right? A lot of what the thinking behind the way we design programs is with that in mind. I want to make sure this person is satisfied and they're happy and they're warm and they're engaged and all this other, so that they can say they like it, so that they can come back, so they can tell other people, so that I can talk about how wonderful my course was, so that and all that stuff, right? That stuff may happen, but that's not the focus of what I'm evaluating. What I'm evaluating is learning. Okay. I'm evaluating learning, and I'm evaluating whether or not the goals that given your design is aligned with the goals of the learners, whether those kinds of things are going on. But I'm going to talk about evaluation as it relates to this in a different video, because I want to keep this short. So again, those are the definitions. I'm going to write them below this video, and it's important to understand what work, the learning environment, learning and teaching are moving forward. So if you have any questions or anything about that, you want to discuss it further, I'm on LinkedIn. You can email me. I'm going to put all that information below the video. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.